back to the Affirmation Addict podcast. My name is Pyle, and today I'm so excited because I'm sharing a story about a lesson I learned very recently, actually, where I essentially spent an entire year, literally 4 days away from an entire year. I spent worrying, feeling like I'm not good enough, concerned, unsure how to fix it, trying really hard to force the energy to change. And then after doing lots of work and lots of self-work, something in me shifted and it changed overnight. Essentially, I spent so much, I dare to say wasted, but I know nothing is a waste of time and everything is in divine timing. But it took me 1 year to learn this lesson. So hopefully you don't have to take a year to learn this lesson. You can really take it from me. You can try to embody and learn and listen to me open-mindedly, because it's so funny that from a time perspective, I think time is such a big pressure on our manifestations, and we spend so much time trying to create and trying to force and trying to analyze and understand how it's going to happen, that ultimately those manifestations can happen in a split second. But we waste/spend so much physical time trying to manipulate and play a role that we don't actually have to play, that only causes us stress and frustration. And so if you give yourself permission to stop caring and stop making it mean something about you, I know I've been saying that phrase a lot, and truly embody what surrender is, it can change overnight. And the big lesson here is, whenever you notice yourself worrying, frustrated, searching for your manifestation, maybe ask yourself, is this worth the time and energy I'm putting in, or could my time and energy be spent elsewhere? Maybe doing something productive, maybe cleaning your house, maybe focusing on increasing your vibration. But if you can pause and have the self-awareness to ask yourself, how is this helping me in any way? The answer is it's not. So if you can kind of get yourself out of that thought pattern and interrupt your thought pattern, you'll probably save a lot more time than I did. I wish I learned this lesson earlier, but I trust that I was meant to learn it. I trust that it was meant to take me exactly 1 year to learn it. And I had a feeling too, oddly enough. So, okay, let me give you some context. So last year, I just got like a whole new realization as to why this even happened. But last year I went to Idaho with my family, and I was going to be out of cell service, and I was actually going through a launch of sorts. And during launching, I'm posting a lot more, and I had all of this content created. So I asked somebody on my team to post for me. Key note, that is something I never do. I am always the one behind my social media. It is a boundary. It is a prideful thing. It is something that is so close to my heart that I am the only one who posts. This experience was, I don't really remember the details of how it happened, whether I knew I was going against my gut, whether I was forcing it. I'm not really sure the energy shift that happened, and I'm not sure what made it happen, but I was doing something that I've never done before, and it was something I felt very strongly about. However, I let someone from my team post for me on behalf of me, and this is going to sound very shallow, but I really do believe social media, to one extent, is a reflection of your energy and how fragile it can be. A lot of people ask me how I grew my social media. I think energy is everything. So for me, knowing that my business is 99% dependent on social media, ever since that trip, ever since that person on my team was posting for me, I have lost followers for an entire year. Zero growth, not an entire year. And that is absolutely insane for somebody who constantly was growing. And I'm grateful for that. And I think that's another thing that I was taught. Like, you don't really know what you have until maybe it goes away. So it was kind of a little bit of a experience of loss for me that I was really taught to appreciate along the way. Because if you don't appreciate it, then there's no reason for it to stay. And giving myself an understanding and navigating through that, I knew so I started losing followers. I was like, okay, fine. People's energy isn't connecting with me. But then I started taking it personally. I was like, well, I'm losing followers. Maybe I'm not relevant. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe my manifestation story isn't good enough. Maybe this is done. Maybe I had my prime and I'm done. And I started making all these stories. And for an entire year, I have spent so much time working through those. I've tried all the different techniques, but there was a large element of me, because it was a source or related to a source of my career and my business, I was taking it way too personally. I put a lot of my personal stake in this experience, and until I took myself out of the equation, until I stopped trying to force a way to fix it, until I stopped trying to kind of identify, how do I get around this? How do I work around this? And I just allowed it to be. I was like, about 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is just how it's meant to be. And maybe I still feel very proud of who I am and the work I do and how I show up, and that I do have something to offer. And maybe there is a possibility that I just need to accept this. Maybe my Instagram doesn't reflect my energy, and I was open to that, because maybe I was too tied to my Instagram. Maybe I was too tied to my career as my identity. I don't necessarily care about the number. I care about the people who are in my community. I care about the fact that they are here to learn from me, so how can I serve them the best? And I was like, well, maybe I am not serving them because they keep going away. And I was making all these stories, right? Maybe some of them are true, maybe some of them aren't. However, 2 weeks ago, I started to really reconnect with my why. Why did I start this? What is my story? Who do I want to be in the manifestation and affirmation and spiritual space? And how can I acknowledge my strengths and trust myself to just show up as I am, be my authentic self, allow myself to express? And 2 weeks ago, I started really embodying that and really feeling like a shift in energy. And I was like, this feels good. Because to be honest, that year of showing up on Instagram and then just constantly feeling like I'm never doing enough, that sucked. Okay, that hit me to my heart. It sucked. And there was so much identity work that I was going through, so much limiting belief reprogramming I was doing. And I finally, 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. Enough is enough. Like, this is not serving me. So I had to hit that enough is enough point. And I finally started to say, you know what? I do have stuff to offer. Maybe it won't reflect in my numbers because the numbers don't matter. So what if I could just honor who I am and feel good about who I am and show up unapologetically? And I started shifting that. And then I felt inspired to make one post, okay? And this is where the overnight comes in. I don't care about going viral. I never say affirmations for going viral. I know certain people do. That is something that does not resonate with me because I think there's a lot more ego in it. And a lot of this experience was very ego-based. I had to come face to face with my ego and how I identified myself and how I looked at myself through the lens of my business. So I was really way too attached from an identity perspective to my business, to my Instagram, to my creations. And I really had to come face to face with that. So I was inspired one night. I was like, oh, this is a fun idea. It wasn't like a trending trend that I saw a bunch of other people doing. It was just something I was like, this is a really cute sound to do this too. I made the video. It was easy. And these are all little clues, right? I made the video. I had fun doing it. Oops, sorry, I hit my mic. Hope that didn't bother your ears. But I made the video. It felt easy. It felt fun. I could care less on the outcome. I was sharing from my heart. I was sharing from a place of, I know who I am and I know what I bring to the table and I know there's power in my story. And that one video recalibrated my following to exactly what it was as I started losing followers. It completely recalibrated my entire year-long thing. It recalibrated and it's starting to surpass. And it's so funny because I was like, wow, I spent an entire year worrying, stressing, making myself feel bad about myself, victimizing myself, feeling shitty about myself. And it all changed overnight because I finally was able to make myself choose how I felt about myself. So the manifestation, right, that physical outer thing that changed, that has actually nothing to do with it. What it all is based off of is how I saw myself, my view on who I am with or without this. So I finally accepted. I was like, maybe this is just the way it has to go. Maybe I do have to just release people who are not in my same energy field, and maybe my energy just doesn't match with them, and that's okay. Somebody else's will. It wasn't anything wrong with me. It wasn't something that meant that I wasn't good enough. And so once I finally started to look at it in that way, shifted the way I saw myself, stopped allowing the situation and the results of the situation to make myself feel better, I literally, everything that I was worried about just immediately went away overnight. It recalibrated. It's like it never even happened, except, oh yeah, a year did pass. But from that numerical standpoint, it's like nothing ever happened. I was absolutely mind blown. And the universe has a way of surprising you and really making you realize like how simple it can be, how time has nothing to do with it, and how quickly things can change if you're willing to drop that resistance, if you're willing to look at yourself in the mirror and be radically honest with what is causing you all of this resistance. What are you making it mean about you? And it makes you realize how shallow we can be, how insecure we can be, how much validation we all need from certain things, or how much we're allowing certain things to contribute to our worthiness. And this was just one other experience where I finally went through the experience of peeling away my career, my business from my identity. I really believe, and I had always said this, that my business was an extension of me. However, when I wasn't doing well, my business wasn't doing well. When I was doing well, my business was doing great. So it was way too much of a direct comparison to the fact where I was like, my business is an expression of me. However, it does not have to match me at all times. My business is allowed to thrive whether or not I am thriving. Our identities do not have to be the same. And really diving into the energetics, I know it's kind of like a lot that I'm explaining, but giving myself permission to be so honest with myself and not judge myself, because honestly, sharing this, I never talk about social media. Sharing this is kind of vulnerable for me because I think a lot of people in my own life have treated me differently ever since my account started growing, and it's something that I do not appreciate. I admire and I'm grateful that they see it as something admirable. However, I don't want them to treat me differently because it's something that comes so naturally to me. I don't want it to mean anything about who I am. I want people to like me and be around me for me, not for how many followers I have on social media. So this is kind of a very sensitive topic for me because a lot of people started texting me again or saying hi or being nicer to me when my following started growing, and it created a lot of resentment as well. So this was such a touchy area in my life that I really didn't realize it was. But as I spent this entire year going through, and then finally, full circle, exactly 1 year later, like 4 days off, I will be back in the same exact place, right? I said I went to Idaho because we went on like a family trip. We're going back, same exact week, wasn't intentional to be the same time of year, back to Idaho. It's such a full circle moment to say, wow, like so much yet so little has changed in that aspect. Like I spent a whole year ruminating and making all these stories up, and then overnight it just went away after I had to spend that year. So I trust that I needed that year to understand the shadows of me, really look at who I am and why am I showing up that way, and be super honest with myself. But I hope I can save you the year and give you an opportunity and an awareness to really play with yourself and look at yourself through different lenses and look at yourself through a magnifying glass and say, where am I bringing in significantly more ego? Where is my identity riding on other people's validation of me? Where can I be more sure of myself? So That is the lesson for you moving forward, is ask yourself, if something has been really bothering you, ask yourself, one, is it worth my time? Shift your attention and then dive into that. If you notice something that is constantly nagging, really reflect on that. You'll learn a lot about your resistance, and it's scary to dive in. It's not fun. I don't like looking at the parts of me that I don't appreciate, but that's growth. That is self-development. That is what we signed up for as we started the manifestation journey, but just no one talks about it. So here I am, hoping that my very vulnerable story and journey and year-long lesson can be like a one-day lesson for you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being so supportive, and thank you for just supporting everything I do, everything I create. I appreciate you and your energy so much more than you know. So I love you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.